Welcome to A Kenny for Your Thoughts. This is Kenny. Today, we're doing an update video for my DC Universe Classics collection. A while back, posted a video here on YouTube going over the collection, talking about the layout, and it's had a few updates since then that felt like it was finally time to do an update. Mattel's DC Universe Classics line is without a doubt my favorite toy line. It's been the primary goal of my collecting for quite a few years now, and it's the display that I've put the most thought and time into, so I like talking about it. This video is probably going to repeat a lot of the same things I said in the first video, but still figured it was worth doing an update and talking about the changes and just going over it for anyone that's interested. So, here we go. Swinging over here to the corner where the collection technically starts, we have Ambush Bug from the McFarlane DC Multiverse line. I just like having Ambush Bug kind of breaking the fourth wall in the collection, kind of welcoming you to the DC wall and pointing you on to everything to his right. So we got Ambush Bug over here, along with just the 75 years collection box that the San Diego Comic-Con Starro came in just for display. And we'll move over to the actual collection. So the main display is split between 3 shelves, and the center shelf is basically the Justice League, or more or less just the DC heroes in general. And in the center you gotta have the Trinity. This is actually the DC Superheroes Superman, but I've always preferred this one for its muted colors and the larger S symbol on the chest. Got blue and gray Batman from Wave 1, and of course Wonder Woman. And then from Hawkgirl to this side, and to Martian Manhunter on this side, I'd say that's basically the main Justice League team, like the core members. This Aquaman is actually a custom. It's the DC Universe Classics variant body Aquaman torso with the 90s long hair variant head and legs. And then you got Jon Stewart, Hawkgirl, and that's the main team on this side. And continuing on to the left from Hawkgirl, got a few members who are pretty high ranking in the Justice League. Red Tornado, Plastic Man, Zatanna, Guy Gardner, Shazam. I do still miss when he was called Captain Marvel. Zatanna here is actually missing her original hat. This hat is from a DC Direct Penguin, so someday I do have to replace that. And you got Dr. Fate flying in the back here. Moving on down, got Mr. Terrific, finally got Jay Garrick Flash, and I finally got the Apache Chief Build-A-Figure tucked back there behind him. Of course, you have to have Booster Gold next to Blue Beetle. And I added some extra support brackets to the shelves here, so I've had the chance to move some people around, and now we have Creeper hanging from the support bracket there, which I think turned out really cool, and it cleared up some more space for people down on the main shelf. Continuing on to the left, got Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, Elongated Man, Dr. Midnight, and from here, Dr. Midnight, Spectre, Phantom Stranger, they all kind of segue us into the Justice League Dark, or just kind of the spooky characters in general. They kind of cap off the far left side of the hero shelf here. So, rounding out our spooky characters, got John Constantine. This hex effect here is from Can of Beams on Instagram. And the cigarette, I forget where that came from. I bought that on eBay quite a few years back. Katana here is from the last few years of Mattel having the DC license. So, Frankenstein back here is from the McFarlane Multiverse line as well, but just like having him on the shelf. Etrigan, Sandman, Blue Beetle, and Deadman round out the team over here. And Batmite is just hanging out here. It's a good spot where he fits, and my wife thinks he's a little creepy, so I think he fits pretty well with the scary guys. And that is the left side of the hero shelf. And picking back up with the main league team on the right side, this is actually the Wally West Flash from the DC Signature Collection, but I just prefer this one. I like the shinier paints, and I like the more sleek body. I think it fits the speedster characters better. And picking up on the right side of Martian Manhunter, got a few more high-ranking leaguers: Black Canary, Green Arrow, Vixen, Firestorm. Black Canary here is actually a lazy custom, just a head swap with a Marvel Legends Emma Frost, but I do really like the blue lipstick. I think that works well for Canary. And over here, have a very lazy growing effect with the Atom. I would like more Atom figures to make a better effect there, but works for the time being. Got Stargirl sitting on the striped Build-A-Figure shoulder. Always happy with how that turned out. I do wish the head sculpt on Stargirl was a bit better though. Rounding out those heroes, we have Black Lightning, Captain Atom, and Bwana Beast hanging from the racket over here, the same way we had Creeper. And that kind of finishes off the main heroes. We segue over to Wildcat, Question, Huntress, and they're kind of the street level guys. Swamp Thing is back here. I used to have him over in the spooky Justice League Dark section, but he's classic DC, and I like having him represented over here where the lighting is better and you can see him more clearly. A lot of people think this figure's too big, and it probably is, but I love this Swamp Thing. He's one of my favorites for sure. So, continuing on to the right, we have a little bit of a Teen Titans display here. DC Universe Classics Old School Robin in the center. I have Nightwing displayed somewhere else, so this is just a good place to have Robin right here in the team. And Wallace West Flash kind of stepping in for Kid Flash here. Superboy's also from the DC Signature Collection. And Wonder Girl and Starfire are also from the last few years of Mattel having the multiverse license. Raven back here is DC Classics. Cyborg, Donna Troy, and Multiverse Beast Boy sitting in the front here. And with Alan Scott just kind of chilling up above everybody, filling out space. That is the Titan section of the hero display. And rounding out this shelf with the last few heroes here, some more D-list, maybe C-list heroes: Metamorpho, Animal Man, Fire and Ice, Mary Marvel, and Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle's kind of the last segue from the Titan team into other standard heroes. And then keeping the metal theme all together, we have Commander Steel segues us into the Metal Men team with little 10 down there. He came packaged with Signature Collection Platinum. And Adam Strange is the last hero just kind of hovering in the back there. And that is the hero shelf slash the Justice League. Moving on to a next shelf. And moving on to the top shelf, this is where we have our villain display. And we're going to start, same as we did with heroes, we'll start with the Trinity in the center. And one of the biggest reasons for making this update display, my lovely wife got me the Naked Cheetah variant of the DC Universe Classics Cheetah. And I'm very glad to say I own it. I think she looks awesome next to Classics Joker and Lex Luthor from the Gotham City 5-pack, with a head swap from the DC Superheroes Luthor. So that is the villain Trinity right there in the center. Got the Solomon Grundy Build-A-Figure chilling behind. One of my favorite Build-A-Figures in the DCUC. And next to Luthor, we've got Clarion the Witch Boy and his cat, Teakle. This is actually from the DC Direct Batman animated series line. And you got DCUC Captain Cold, Giganta Build-A-Figure next to Riddler. Always thought that was a fun pair. And Toyman is also from the animated line. This is the DC Unlimited series. There is another Toyman in the display. I kind of have it set up where some people get two different versions for two different collection areas. But I always thought this design for Toyman was really cool, so I like having this one over here in the Legion of Doom inspired area. And continuing on to the left from those guys, we've got some more villains with Black Adam, Ultra Humanite, and Amazo. The Unmen down here came packed with the San Diego Comic-Con Swamp Thing, so got them filling space down there. I got Gentleman Ghost, Despero Build-A-Figure, and Ocean Master, also from the DC Signature Collection. And they kind of finish off what used to be the main display up here. But on to another one of the big updates for making this new video is this new Apocalypse shelf that I added up here. So basically the way I have it set up is this shelf that the villains are standing on is what I consider the top, and anything that kind of goes above that or hangs across the wall, I kind of consider to be cosmic or on a grander scale, you know, above everyone else for sure. So I added this new shelf here that's slightly above everyone else, and this is the Apocalypse / New Gods display. And right in the center, this is actually the DC Multiverse Darkseid. I do have the DC Classics Build-A-Figure, and I'm not quite sure which one I like better. I have this one on display right now, but I do go back and forth. I like the size, and I like the like striking blue. It's much brighter than the Build-A-Figure. But I am torn. I do like them both. Desaad down here is holding the Kill Glove. Kind of a fun way to show his skill set. And then the heroes on the end here, Forager, Mr. Miracle, and Big Barda. If the McFarlane line ever does make a Big Barda, if she's considerably taller, I will consider replacing her. My one gripe with this figure is I do wish she was taller. And we've also got Metron in the Mobius chair, kind of hanging out in the back there, next to a few parademons along the wall. And that finishes up this New Gods display, along with this Brainiac ship from the DC Superpowers McFarlane line, and this custom Catwoman. This is actually Marvel Legends Black Widow body with a few Catwoman parts, hands, belt, and head from DC Direct figures. So that finishes up this top shelf over here, and I'm pretty happy with this addition. And continuing the cosmic trend, we've got Mantis and Atrocitus along the back wall there, kind of in the cosmic area. Dexstar is also hovering up here in Atrocitus general area. And speaking of the DC Superpowers line by McFarlane, we also have the Bug just hanging out up here as kind of another representation of something in the DC universe. Trying to kind of pack as much as I can of their whole world into this display. So, picking up on the right side of the Villains Trinity, this is another custom. This Killer Frost was a Marvel Legends Dazzler and Emma Frost head, maybe, but I painted it up and added some sculpt to it, just like having Killer Frost as part of the display. Dr. Psycho down here is from the era of tiny Build-A-Figures from a while back. Mentioned it earlier, but Starro back here is from that San Diego Comic-Con box set. And we got Yellow Suit Sinestro, Bright Suit Bizarro, Deathstroke next to Gorilla Grodd. I used to have the DC Universe Classics Gorilla Grodd Build-A-Figure. I ended up selling it and replacing it with this statue, and I'll explain better later, but I do prefer this statue. I like the New 52 look for Grodd with the armor and the cape and everything, so I like having that one on display. I think he scales pretty well. And another custom down here is this Mr. Mind that I just sculpted from scratch and painted. Nothing too special, but just another villain, so I like having him. Continuing on, next to Grodd, we've got Black Manta, Above him, Star Sapphire, Mirror Master, Captain Boomerang, and Major Force. Next to Ares, and we've got Build-A-Figure Chemo floating in the back there. Brainiac is kind of the final villain before we segue into a new section, and he segues us into this tiny little bat family here. This is where we have Nightwing, also from the late years of the Mattel license, Tim Drake, Robin, Batwoman, got Alfred with a gun back there from the Jazzwares Fortnite line, and we've got Jason Todd Red Hood. They finally gave us the proper Red Hood in the final years there. And behind them we've got the Trigon Build-A-Figure, another one that kind of fits the cosmic trend of the people in the back line here. We're going to round back up to the people at the very top, but continuing on from the right, next to Jason we have Batgirl, and standing next to Supergirl, and the two of them kind of segues into the Superman proper area of the display. So Supergirl, also from the DC Icons line, next to Steel from the DC Superheroes line. And Steel is the beginning of this little Death of Superman area in the display here. So on one side we have Steel and Superboy, was it Matty Collector exclusive, the Doomsday they finally gave us at the very end of the Mattel run, and custom Lex Luthor in a business suit. I forget which figure the suit came from, one of the Movie Masters figures, I think. Lex is one of those characters we have two versions of. I like having business suit Lex in the Superman proper area, and the Legion of Doom Lex in the villains area. And finishing up Death of Superman, we have Cyborg Superman and Eradicator with another effect piece from the Marvel Legend line. And here in the center, got Mr. Mixia-Spitalik, and this Daily Planet piece came with a DC Direct Perry White figure, but I like having it next to Mixie here, kind of pretending like he shrunk the Daily Planet to get on Superman's bad side. So that is the start of the Superman display, and we'll continue on. Finishing up the top shelf, rounding out the far right edge here, we're finishing up the Superman section with this Crypto, which is a 3D print my brother-in-law was nice enough to print for me. Not the best paint job in the world, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. This is where we have DC Classics Toyman proper, chilling right here. Live wires from the DC Direct line. Silver Banshee up here was from the Public Enemies line that Mattel did. Another one of my favorite Build-A-Figures, Metallo, back here. Really awesome figure. I love his sculpt and design. Lois Lane is another custom. Marvel Legends Mary Jane from the Spider-Verse movie, or excuse me, No Way Home movie, with a Danger Girl figure head on there. Again, not the best custom in the world, but I think it does well enough. Lois is important enough to have in the collection for sure, especially next to our very scrawny Clark Kent that we got in the DC Superpowers line. Moving on from there, got Power Girl floating in the back next to DC Direct Mongol, and Brainiac, Parasite, and Kelix finish off the main shelf here. And if we move up, got Alexander Luthor kind of hovering above the Superman characters here. And we also have another Superman. This is also a custom, the DC Superpowers inspired Superman with the classics proper head. And having this Superman here is just kind of an excuse to have a brighter colored Superman along with my more muted one in the main display. And behind him, we'll finish up the cosmic section with one of the Manhunter robots back there. Validus, Build-A-Figure, just floating on the back wall here. And Metron, also from the DC Multiverse line. I do prefer this figure over the Build-A-Figure that Mattel gave us. Coming with the Scythe alone is a pretty huge improvement. So that's the cosmic section on this side. And if we move back around over here, we've also got Batman Beyond, kind of hovering on the support bracket here. Custom wings, they're just cut from paper foam and painted red, but I think it's much better than the ones that Mattel actually gave us. They were very puny wings that didn't match the cartoon accuracy at all. And finishing up the cosmic people above everyone else, the Imperiex Build-A-Figure here, still missing a right leg. One day I will find one for a good price. Till then, I'm okay with having a one-legged Imperiex. Finally got the Green Lantern Guardians, or the Guardians of Oa. So they're kind of just adjacently hovering between the heroes and the cosmic section up here. And then the two big baddies, they get to be right center fold in the back wall. Superboy Prime and McFarlane DC Multiverse line Anti-Monitor. Being the big bads of Infinite Crisis, I like having them as kind of the big center points right in the top of the wall. And just kind of filling space in between everybody, just another person in the cosmic section. We also have this guy, can't remember his name, but he's there too. And finishing up the collection with the last shelf at the bottom here, we have the Batman villains area. Starting out with Man-Bat, floating upside down here and kind of filling this gap between my little Superman shrine and the main display. I am really happy with how that turned out, having him hanging there. I think that looks really cool. And picking up with the Batman villains, Build-A-Figure Bane. This black mask is another custom, Marvel Legends Everett Ross, and a very old Red Skull head that I painted black. I think it turned out okay, and he's got just some random guns that I've acquired over the years. Penguin, Poison Ivy from the DC Signature Collection, and Two-Face from the DC Superheroes line, along with Scarecrow, very old school. Killer Moth back here, one of my favorite figures in the DC UC. Just love that character design, and the colors are just so vibrant, very satisfying to look at. A little bit of a custom though, he does have a fur collar that I stole from a Marvel Legends Vulture, just to give him a little extra oomph. And finishing up the Batman villains with a few more customs. Got our second Joker in the display. We had one in the Legion of Doom and one in the Batman villain proper. And this is the DC Universe Classics Joker painted to look like the animated series, or excuse me, the Justice League Unlimited series. But he also had this design in the New Adventures. Bud and Lou down here, the hyenas, are from the DC Direct animated series line as well. Mad Hatter here from the DC Direct Hush line, DCUC Jumpsuit Riddler, and another of my favorites, this custom Mr. Freeze from Anthony's Customs. Be sure to check out his channel. He's got videos on making it, and I'm still very appreciative to have that figure. Very, very cool. Finishing up the Batman villains, got Clayface from the DC Superheroes line, one of the figures that started the entire collection. KG Beast from the Multiverse line, at the end of its years with Mattel. And Ra's al Ghul next to another custom. I forget the name, but this is another Danger Girl figure that I painted the head and added the belt. Supposed to be Talia al Ghul, and I feel like the green pants and boots kind of match next to her father here, so kind of works, I think. And finishing off the side over here, we've got the Build-A-Figure Killer Croc and purple Catwoman from the Gotham City 5-pack. Finishes off the Batman villains area. And from this point moving on, this is where the bottom shelf kind of loses its structure a bit, or at least becomes a little bit more of a modge podge of just things that don't fit elsewhere. We've kind of got a little bit of a random heroes that probably could be in the Justice League shelf, but I just don't really have the space for them. Doom Patrol here all together. Elastigirl was also the DC Signature Collection. Uncle Sam, DC Signature Collection, comes with a little doll man here. Hawk and Dove, floating in the back. Commandy, with a custom gun that came with one of the figures in the G.I. Joe classified line, but I can't remember which one. And got him next to Jonah Hex as kind of a guys lost out of time kind of gimmick here, having the two of them together. This little Mod Podge collection of heroes bleeds us into my humble Green Lantern collection. I do not have all the Green Lantern figures in the DCUC line, but I'm happy with the few I have here. Kat Matui next to Build-A-Figure Kilowog, still one of my favorite figures in the whole toy room. Always been one of my favorite figures. Badge or Chip down here, depending on your preference. Tomar Ray next to Kyle Rayner, also from the later years of the Mattel Multiverse line. And Green Lantern Sinestro finishes out the Lantern Squad here. And since Sinestro is a bad guy, he bleeds us into another little Mod Podge of villains here. Another custom, Gizmo up here was a Funko MCU Falcon, and I forget the head that I sculpted bald and sculpted the goggles on. I think it's okay. Just want to have another villain in the collection is the only reason I went ahead and made that. Copperhead next to Reverse Flash and San Diego Comic-Con Lobo. I do agree with complaints that he's probably too tall, but it's hard to beat this figure sculpting and detailing. He is a very awesome figure, and coming with the dog is an absolute win. Lobo next to Larfleeze, DC Signature Collection, and Magog. Omac here technically should be with the heroes, but he is sporting a Starosporn, so technically he is of evil descent right now. Just feels like a good way to have the Starospore on display because I don't really care about Omac. And finishing off with some more random villains down here. Got Icicle, Monsieur Mallah and the Brain, another of my favorite figures in the line, also from the DC Signature Collection. And this figure is the reason why I use the Kotobukiya statue for Gorilla Grodd. The Build-A-Figure, Gorilla Grodd, uses the same body as Mallah, and I like having a collection where two different gorilla characters can have two different bodies. So that is why I prefer this figure and prefer that statue for Grodd. And finishing this display up, another custom, I think it's the last one here, Trickster, and a very lazy custom because this isn't even blue paint, it's just painter's tape down, but from a distance you can't really tell, and I like having Trickster just represented as part of the display. And finishing off the whole collection, we have the Crime Syndicate 5-pack, and Eclipso is just the final little guy down here. Like I said, bottom shelf becomes a little more randomized, but kind of fills that gap of having other characters that don't fit elsewhere. And that finishes off the whole display. And there you have it. There is a update video on my DC Universe Classics collection. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, hope you maybe found it somewhat informative or just enjoyed looking at some cool figures and being along for the ride. Stay tuned for more. I might be posting more videos like a breakdown of the Superman Shrine or some other displays in the toy room in case that interests anybody. And let me know in the comments what you think between the Multiverse Darkseid versus the Build-A-Figure proper. Kind of curious to hear what people think between the two figures and whether that one scales well with the collection. Thanks again for watching,